"Mom, I can't be seen with you anymore. You're embarrassing." Those words shattered my heart into a million pieces. My son had become a tech millionaire, living in a penthouse, driving luxury cars. But he forgot one crucial thing: I held the key to everything he built. And when he publicly humiliated me at his engagement party, I knew it was time he learned where his empire truly came from. "Mom, I can't be seen with you anymore. You're embarrassing." Those were the words that came out of my son's mouth. My Daniel, the boy I raised alone after his father walked out on us when he was just 3 years old. The child I worked 3 jobs for, went hungry for, sacrificed everything for. We were standing in the parking lot of the Grand Meridian Hotel, one of the most expensive venues in the city. He'd just finished checking the arrangements for his engagement party, and I'd come to drop off the family photo album he'd asked me to bring. Photos from his childhood. Photos I thought he wanted to share with his future in-laws. But I was wrong. Before I tell you what happened next, don't forget to subscribe if you love true stories like this, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done if this happened to you? Daniel looked at me that day like I was a stranger. No, worse than a stranger. Like I was something shameful he needed to hide. His eyes darted around the parking lot, checking if anyone important had seen us together. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He sighed, running his hand through his perfectly styled hair. Everything about him screamed money now. The Italian suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. The watch that glinted in the afternoon sun. The cologne that smelled expensive. "Look," he said, his voice flat and businesslike. "Victoria's family is. They're high society, Mom. Her father is Senator Bradford. They have expectations. Standards. Standards," I repeated. "And I don't meet them." "It's not personal," he said, pulling out his phone and glancing at the screen. "It's just, you don't understand this world. The way you dress, the way you talk. You still sound like you're from the old neighborhood. And that bakery you work at. The bakery that put food on our table when you were growing up?" I interrupted, feeling anger mixing with my hurt. "The bakery where I still work because someone has to do honest work." He looked annoyed now. Actually annoyed. With me. His mother. "I'm not having this conversation in a parking lot," he said. "I'll have my assistant send you a check. That should more than cover everything." Everything. 18 years of raising him alone. 18 years of night shifts and double shifts. 18 years of choosing between paying the electric bill or buying him new shoes for school. All reduced to everything. Let me take you back. Back to when Daniel was born, and the world seemed full of possibility despite our struggles. I was 22 when I had him. His father, Marcus, was 25, a charming salesman who promised me the world. We were going to build a life together, he said. Family. Future. But promises are easy to make and easier to break. When Daniel was 3, Marcus left. No dramatic fight. No big announcement. I just came home from my shift at the diner one day to find a note on the kitchen table. "I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry." That was it. That was all the explanation I got for why my son would grow up without a father. The next 15 years were a blur of survival. I worked at the bakery from 4 in the morning until noon. Then I'd rush home, make sure Daniel had lunch, help him with homework, and head to my evening shift as a cleaner at an office building. Some nights, I'd come home at midnight and take on freelance data entry work until 3 in the morning. But Daniel never went without. That was my promise to myself. He had good clothes. Not expensive but clean and respectable. He had school supplies. He had a computer when everyone started needing them for homework. He had birthday parties, even if they were just pizza and cake in our tiny apartment. And he was brilliant. God, my boy was so smart. By high school he was taking advanced placement classes, winning science fairs, getting straight A's. His teachers said he was special. that he could do anything he set his mind to. "Mom," he told me one night when he was 16, his eyes shining with excitement, "I want to study computer science. I want to build something amazing. Something that changes the world." I worked extra shifts to buy him programming books. I saved every penny so he could attend a summer coding camp. And when it came time for college applications, we sat together at our kitchen table, filling out scholarship forms until our hands cramped. He got into MIT. Full scholarship for tuition, but we still needed money for housing, books, living expenses. I took out a second mortgage on our small apartment. I sold my mother's jewelry, the only valuable things I owned. And I worked. God, how I worked. But he graduated top of his class. And 6 months later, he came to me with the biggest request of his life. "Mom, I have an idea for a tech startup." We were sitting in our apartment, the same small apartment where he grew up. Daniel had moved back temporarily after graduation, working late nights on his laptop, barely sleeping, living on coffee and takeout. "It's a platform for small businesses," he explained, his words tumbling out fast with excitement. "A way to manage inventory, sales, customer relationships, everything. All integrated, all cloud-based, all affordable. The big corporations have expensive software, but small businesses can't afford those systems. I want to change that." I didn't understand half of what he was saying. Cloud-based, API integration. These weren't words in my vocabulary. But I understood passion. I understood determination. I saw in his eyes the same fire I'd had when I was young, before life wore me down. "It sounds wonderful," I said. "What do you need?" He hesitated. "Money. Seed funding. I need about $50,000 to build the first version, patent the technology, and pitch it to real investors." $50,000. I made $30,000 a year working myself to exhaustion. 50,000 might as well have been $1 million. "How much do you have saved?" he asked. "About 8,000. From the part-time coding jobs I did in college." I was quiet for a long time. Then I said, "Give me a week." That week, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went to every bank in town and got rejected for a loan. Too much existing debt, they said. Not enough collateral. So I went to private lenders. The kind with high interest rates and aggressive collection policies. I borrowed $42,000. The terms were brutal, 22% interest, payments due monthly. And if I missed even one payment, they could take everything. But I didn't tell Daniel that part. When I handed him the check, his hands were shaking. "Mom, how did you?" "Don't worry about it," I said, trying to sound casual. "I had some investments mature. Just promise me you'll work hard and make it count." He hugged me so tight that day. "I promise, Mom. I promise I'll make you proud. I'll pay you back 10 times over. 100 times over. I'll buy you a house. You'll never have to work again." Those promises sounded so sincere then. Daniel's company, which he called Micromanage Solutions, took off faster than anyone expected. Within 6 months, he'd signed his first 50 small business clients. Within a year, he had 500. The platform worked beautifully. It was intuitive, affordable, and solved real problems for real people. Tech blogs started writing about him. The 23-year-old genius revolutionizing small business software. From MIT to millions. The Daniel Chen story. By year 2, venture capital firms were circling. By year 3, he'd raised $20 million in series of funding. His company was valued at $80 million. And me. I was still working at the bakery. Still working my cleaning job. Still making monthly payments to those private lenders. Watching the interest pile up even as I paid and paid and paid. Daniel did pay me back the original $50,000. He sent me a check with a nice card that said, "Thank you for believing in me." But that was it. That was all. He never asked how I'd gotten the money. Never asked if I was okay financially. Never offered more than that initial repayment, even though his company was worth millions and growing every day. I told myself he was busy, that he was young and caught up in his success, that he'd remember eventually, that he'd come back and we'd laugh about these crazy years when he was building his empire. But he didn't come back. He moved to a penthouse in the city, started dating a woman named Victoria Bradford, young, beautiful, from old money. Her father was a senator. Her mother sat on the boards of museums and charities. They summered in the Hamptons. They had a family estate in Connecticut. Daniel started appearing at galas, charity auctions, at exclusive parties where the champagne cost more than I made in a month. And slowly, his calls to me became less frequent. Once a week became once a month. Once a month became holidays only. And even on holidays, the conversations felt rushed. Obligatory. Sorry, Mom, I can't talk long. I have a meeting. Sorry, Mom, Victoria and I have plans. Sorry, Mom, I'm traveling for business. I started seeing him more in magazine photos than in person. Tech mogul Daniel Chan and Senator's daughter Victoria Bradford at the Metropolitan Museum Gala. Daniel Chan announces major expansion. Company now valued at $300 million. $300 million. And I was still working at that bakery. Still making loan payments. Still living in that same small apartment. But I told myself it was okay. He was living his dream. That's what mothers do. We sacrifice so our children can fly. I just didn't expect him to fly so far away that he forgot where he came from. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. Daniel's name appeared on the screen. "Hey, Mom," he said, and his voice had that cheerful, practiced quality I'd come to recognize, the voice he used when he wanted something. "Daniel," I said warmly. "It's so good to hear from you. How are you?" "Great, really great. Listen, I'm calling with some exciting news. Victoria and I are engaged." "Oh," I said, trying to inject enthusiasm into my voice despite the sudden ache in my chest. He hadn't told me he was planning to propose. I hadn't even met Victoria in person yet. "That's wonderful, honey. Congratulations." "Thanks. So we're having an engagement party next month at the Grand Meridian Hotel. It's gonna be pretty big, about 300 guests. All of Victoria's family, business partners, investors, you know. And of course I want you there." My heart lifted. Of course he wanted me there. I was his mother. "I'd love to come," I said. "Great. And actually, I was hoping you could bring the old photo albums. Victoria's parents want to see some childhood pictures. You know, the whole getting to know the groom's family thing." "Of course," I said. "I'll bring them all." "Perfect. Oh, and Mom, it's black tie. So maybe you could find something nice to wear. I can send you some money for a dress if you need it." There it was. That slight edge in his voice. That careful politeness that barely masked what he really meant. "Please don't embarrass me." "I'll find something appropriate," I said quietly. "You're the best. See you there." He hung up before I could say I love you. I bought a dress from a department store. Nothing fancy. I couldn't afford fancy, but it was elegant. Black, simple, with a modest neckline and 3/4 sleeves. I had my hair done at a salon for the first time in years. I even bought new shoes. I wanted Daniel to be proud of me. I wanted to prove I could fit into his world, even if just for one night. The day of the party, I spent 2 hours getting ready. I practiced my smile in the mirror. I rehearsed small talk topics. I told myself everything would be fine. The Grand Meridian Hotel was stunning. Crystal chandeliers. Marble floors. Servers in white gloves carrying trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Everyone was dressed like they'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. I clutched the photo albums to my chest as I walked through the parking lot toward the entrance. That's when I saw Daniel. He was standing near his car, a sleek black Tesla, talking on his phone. When he saw me, his face went pale. He ended his call abruptly and walked over quickly, his expression tight. "Mom," he said, his voice low and urgent. "What are you doing here?" "You invited me," I said, confused. "To your engagement party. You asked me to bring the photos." He glanced back at the hotel entrance nervously. "Right, the photos. Just give them to me here, okay?" "Here? In the parking lot?" "Yes, I'll take them inside." "You don't need to. Daniel, I'm your mother. Of course I'm coming to your engagement party." That's when he said it. "Mom, I can't be seen with you anymore. You're embarrassing." I stood there, frozen, as my son told me I wasn't good enough for his new life. "You want me to give you the photos and leave?" I asked, my voice somehow steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. "I'll have my assistant send you a check," he said, not meeting my eyes. "For your time. For everything. But Victoria's family. They can't know about certain things." "Certain things," I repeated. "You mean me. They can't know about me." He shifted uncomfortably. "It's complicated. Victoria's father is very particular about image and family connections. If they knew my background was more humble, it might affect business relationships. You understand, right?" I looked at my son, this stranger in an expensive suit, and something inside me finally broke. Not broke like shattered. Broke like a dam finally giving way. "No," I said. "What?" "No, I don't understand. And no, I'm not leaving." His eyes widened. "Mom, please don't make a scene. I raised you better than this," I said, my voice shaking now. "I raised you to have integrity, to have gratitude, to remember where you came from." "I know where I came from," he snapped, his mask slipping for just a moment. "That's exactly the problem." Those words hit me like a physical blow. "I see," I said quietly. "Well, then you won't mind if I come inside and tell Victoria and her family exactly where you came from. How your mother worked 3 jobs. How she mortgaged her home. How she—" "You wouldn't. Try me." We stood there in a silent standoff. Finally, Daniel's face hardened. "Fine," he said coldly. "Come to the party. But stay in the background. Don't talk to the Bradfords. Don't tell anyone those stories. Can you do that? Can you just pretend to be a normal guest?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to ask him when he'd become this cruel. But instead I just nodded. "I'll be invisible," I said. "Just like you want." The engagement party was everything you'd expect from people with too much money and too little soul. I stood in the corner of the ballroom, holding a glass of champagne I hadn't touched, watching Daniel and Victoria make their rounds. She was beautiful, I had to give her that. Tall, blonde, with perfect teeth and practiced grace. She wore a dress that probably cost more than my car. Senator Bradford gave a toast about family values and tradition. Mrs. Bradford gushed about what a brilliant match their daughter had made. Several business associates spoke about Daniel's innovative mind and bright future. No one mentioned me. I was a ghost in that room. A few people glanced my way curiously, but no one approached me. It was clear I didn't belong. At one point, Victoria's mother walked past me and gave me a polite smile, the kind rich people give to servers or staff. She had no idea I was Daniel's mother. Why would she? He hadn't introduced us. I watched my son laugh and charm and network. He was brilliant at it. He'd become everything he dreamed of becoming. Successful, powerful, respected, and absolutely empty. I found myself thinking about the little boy who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. The teenager who'd cry on my shoulder when kids at school made fun of his secondhand clothes. The young man who'd hugged me so tightly when I gave him that check, promising he'd never forget what I'd done for him. Where had that boy gone? Around 9 o'clock, I decided to leave. I'd suffered enough for one night. I set down my untouched champagne and quietly made my way toward the exit. But then I heard Victoria's voice, loud and excited. "Everyone! Daniel has a surprise announcement." "Stop." Daniel stood at the front of the room, microphone in hand, Victoria beaming at his side. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he said, his voice smooth and confident. "As many of you know, Micromanage Solutions has grown beyond my wildest dreams. And I'm thrilled to announce that we've just closed a Series C funding round of $100 million, valuing the company at $1.2 billion. The room erupted in applause. "But I couldn't have done it alone," Daniel continued. "I want to thank my incredible team, my advisors, my investors who believed in the vision from day one. And most importantly," he turned to Victoria and took her hand, "I want to thank my fiancée Victoria and her father Senator Bradford, whose connections and guidance have been invaluable in taking Micromanage to the next level." More applause. More cheers. He thanked everyone. Everyone except the woman who'd actually made it all possible. And that's when I knew what I had to do. I walked forward through the crowd. People turned to look at me. This woman in a simple dress who didn't belong. "Excuse me," I said loudly. The room went quiet. Daniel's face went white. "I'm sorry to interrupt," I continued, my voice steady now. "But I think there's been an oversight." "Mom," Daniel said through clenched teeth, "now is not the time." "Oh, I think it's exactly the time," I said. I turned to face the crowd. "My name is Margaret Chen. I'm Daniel's mother. And I think it's important that everyone here knows the real story of how Micromanage Solutions came to be." Victoria looked confused. Senator Bradford frowned. The room was completely silent. "6 years ago," I said, "my son came to me with a dream. He wanted to build something amazing. But he needed money, $50,000. At the time I was working 2 jobs, barely making ends meet. But I believed in him." Daniel's face had gone from white to red. "Mom, please." "I took out loans," I continued, ignoring him. "High-interest loans from private lenders. Dangerous loans. The kind that could have cost me everything. I gave him every penny of that $50,000. I told him it was from investments that had matured. I lied because I didn't want him to worry. I wanted him to focus on building his dream." I could see people exchanging glances now. Whispers starting to ripple through the crowd. "For the next 3 years," I said, "while Daniel built his company, I paid off those loans. While he raised millions from investors, I worked at a bakery and cleaned offices at night to make my monthly payments. While he moved into a penthouse, I struggled to keep my small apartment. He did pay me back the original $50,000, I continued, which was generous. But that money only covered the principal. It didn't cover the interest. It didn't cover the years of financial stress. It didn't cover the health problems I developed from working myself into exhaustion." Victoria's hand had dropped from Daniel's. She was staring at him. "I never asked for more," I said. "Because mothers don't keep score. We sacrifice because we love." But tonight, as I listened to my son thank everyone except the person who made his first dollar possible, I realized something. He hasn't forgotten me. He's ashamed of me. He's ashamed that his mother works at a bakery, that she never went to college, that she doesn't know which fork to use at fancy dinners, that she might embarrass him in front of his new, sophisticated friends. I turned to look directly at Daniel. "But here's what you've forgotten, Daniel. Everything you have, every dollar, every success, every opportunity, it started with money that came from my sweat and tears. You didn't build this empire alone. You built it on my back." Daniel stood frozen, the microphone dangling from his hand. Victoria had taken several steps away from him. Senator Bradford's face was a mask of disapproval. Is this true? Victoria asked, her voice sharp. You lied about where your seed funding came from. I didn't lie, Daniel said weakly. I just didn't. You told me your mother gave you some money from savings, Victoria interrupted. You made it sound like a small gift. You never mentioned loans. Or that she nearly destroyed herself financially for you. And tonight, Victoria continued, her voice rising, you were going to let her stand in the corner like a stranger? You weren't even going to introduce her to my parents. Victoria, you don't understand the full context. I understand perfectly, she said coldly. I understand that you're embarrassed of the woman who sacrificed everything for you. What does that say about your character, Daniel? Senator Bradford stepped forward. Young man, my daughter and our family value integrity above all else. If this is how you treat your own mother. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The room was still silent. 300 people watching Daniel's perfect life crumble in real time. Daniel turned to me, and for the first time in years, I saw the little boy again. The scared, vulnerable child who needed his mother. Mom, he whispered, his voice cracking. Sorry. I'm so sorry. He sank to his knees right there in front of everyone. I don't know what happened to me, he said, tears streaming down his face now. I got so caught up in success in trying to fit into this world that I forgot. I forgot everything that mattered. I forgot you. You're right. I was ashamed. But not of you, I was ashamed of myself. Ashamed that I'd grown up poor. Ashamed that I didn't come from the right family. So I tried to erase it. I tried to erase my past. And in doing that, I erased the most important person in my life. He looked up at me, his face devastated. Please, he begged. Please forgive me. I'll do anything. I'll make it right. Daniel, I said softly. Making it right isn't about money. Never was. It was about remembering who you are. And more importantly, whose son you are. I left the party that night without saying anything else. The next morning, Daniel showed up at my apartment. He'd been crying. His eyes were red and swollen. Victoria wasn't with him. According to the text he'd sent me at 3 a.m., she'd broken off the engagement. Can we talk? He asked quietly. I let him in. We sat at my small kitchen table, the same table where we'd filled out his college applications all those years ago. I've spent the whole night thinking, he said. About everything. About who I became. And Mom, I hate that person. I hate who I turned into. Then change, I said simply. I want to. I will. But I need to know. Can you forgive me? I looked at my son, really looked at him. At the man who'd forgotten his mother but remembered every business contact's name. At the brilliant mind corrupted by greed and status. At the broken boy who finally understood what he'd lost. Yes, I said finally. I can forgive you. But Daniel, I need you to understand something. Forgiveness doesn't mean everything goes back to normal. Trust takes time to rebuild. Love doesn't die, but respect. Respect you have to earn again. He nodded, fresh tears spilling over. I'll earn it, he whispered. However long it takes. I promise. This time I believed his promise. Not because of his words but because of his broken heart. It's been 2 years since that night at the Grand Meridian Hotel. Daniel did change. Not overnight, that's not how real change works. But gradually, deliberately. He started therapy. He stepped back from some of the social circles that had corrupted his values. He sold his penthouse and moved into a modest house. He started volunteering at a nonprofit that helped kids from low-income families learn coding. And he paid me back. Not just the money, though he did that too, with full interest calculated over all those years. But more importantly, he paid me back in time. In presence. In remembering who his mother is. We have dinner every Sunday now. At my apartment, not fancy restaurants. He asks about my life. He listens. He remembers. Victoria did eventually take him back, but only after a year of watching him prove he'd changed. Their wedding was small, just 50 guests, held at a local community center. I wore the same dress I'd worn to their engagement party. This time Daniel introduced me to everyone. This time he gave a toast thanking me specifically, publicly, tearfully. And this time he meant it. I still work at the bakery. Daniel has offered many times to help me retire, but I like the work. I like the routine. I like the purpose. Though I did quit the cleaning job. That was enough sacrifice for one lifetime. Here's what I learned through all of this. Success without character is just expensive emptiness. Money without morality is poverty of a different kind. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone you love is the truth, even when it hurts. Daniel learned that wealth means nothing if you lose yourself in the pursuit of it. That the measure of a person isn't what they achieve, but who they become along the way. And he learned, finally, that a mother's love is the one investment that never loses value, even when forgotten, even when betrayed, even when rejected. It's always there, waiting for you to remember its worth. If this story moved you, like and subscribe for more stories about truth, betrayal, and redemption. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever been forgotten by someone you sacrificed for? How did you handle it? And remember, the people who lift you up deserve to be remembered when you reach the top. Don't forget the hands that held you when you couldn't stand alone. Thank you for listening to my story.